Hey everyone, welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something super relevant to all of us, mental health in this crazy digital age we live in. And to help us unpack all of this, we're diving deep into mindful resilience, navigating mental health in a digital age by Ioannis John. We've got the PDF and even checked out the Amazon list, so we're ready to get into it. First things first, let's talk about this double-edged sword of digital connectivity. On one side, technology has totally changed how we approach mental health support. Teletherapy, for instance. It's been a game changer for people in areas where therapists are hard to find. The book gives the example of Sarah in Montana. She found a therapist online when there were literally none available near her. That's incredible access that wouldn't have been possible before. And we can't forget online communities. Platforms like Reddit and Facebook are packed with support groups, connecting people with shared experiences and building this amazing sense of belonging. It's like tech is breaking down the walls that used to isolate people struggling with mental health. But here's the twist. That same technology can also be a major stressor, especially on visual platforms like Instagram and TikTok, can really fuel anxiety. We see these influencers with their seemingly perfect lives, and it makes us question our own worth and feel this constant pressure to be always on. Remember Lisa from the book? The college student who got caught in the comparison trap and started spiraling into anxiety, comparing herself to influencers. And then there's Mark, the marketing executive, who felt like he had to answer emails around the clock. It's this always-on culture that blurs the lines between work and life. And it's a recipe for burnout and stress. And then there's doom scrolling, something we all got way too familiar with during the pandemic. Remember, David, the teacher glued to every COVID update, constantly bombarded with negative news. The book argues that these digital habits actually trigger a dopamine feedback loop in our brains. You know, the little rush you get when a notification pops up? That's dopamine, a neurochemical linked to pleasure and reward. Our brains love it. But the problem is, the constant pings and notifications from our devices create this cycle of craving and dependence. We end up spending more and more time online, even when it's not good for us. Now, our brains are definitely wired to handle stress, but the kind of stress we evolved to deal with is totally different from the constant stimulation we're getting from our devices today. Think of the fight or flight response. It's a short-term survival mechanism. When we sense danger, our bodies release hormones like adrenaline and cortisol to help us cope. But in this hyper-connected world we're in, we're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation. It's like our stress response system is stuck in overdrive. And this is where the HPA axis comes in. It's our body's central stress response system. When we're dealing with chronic stress, our HPA axis goes into overdrive, pumping out cortisol. Cortisol is great in small doses. It gives us energy and focus. But when it's constantly elevated, it can wreak havoc on our minds and bodies, leading to a big difficulty, concentrating sleeplessness, weakened immunity, and even digestive issues. So it's not surprising that a study in Nature Communications found that people who spend over 8 hours online have a 30% higher risk of chronic stress. If you're feeling that wired but tired, feeling constantly checking your phone and struggling to focus, your digital habits might be feeding into this chronic stress cycle. And that brings us to anxiety in the digital age. The book defines anxiety as excessive worry without an immediate threat. Is that feeling of unease, nervousness, or apprehension that can be constant and overwhelming. And sadly, the digital world can make anxiety even worse. Think about it, the constant influx of information, the pressure to present a perfect image on social media, and the very real threat of cyberbullying. These are all potent triggers for anxiety in our digital world. Take Emma, the high schooler from the book. She developed panic attacks because of cyberbullying on Instagram. Her story is a harsh reminder that the digital world can have a very real and devastating impact on our mental well-being. But don't worry, there's hope. The book emphasizes building digital resilience. It's not about ditching technology completely, but rather about learning to use it intentionally to support our well-being. We're picking up our exploration of mindful resilience, zeroing in on some practical strategies for navigating the digital world without sacrificing your mental well-being. Remember, it's not about swearing off technology altogether. It's about being more intentional and mindful about how we use it. The book introduces this really interesting concept called digital resilience. It's basically about learning to use technology in a way that supports our well-being, not drains it. Think of it like building this inner compass that helps us navigate the digital landscape without losing sight of what truly matters. One of the most effective strategies the book highlights is mindful technology use. Before you even unlock your phone or open an app, take a second to pause and ask yourself, why am I doing this? Am I looking for information connection or just trying to distract myself? Being aware of our motivations can help break free from mindless scrolling and use technology with more purpose. The book also suggests trying single tasking instead of constantly juggling multiple apps or tabs. You might be surprised how much more you get done and how much calmer you feel when you focus on one thing at a time. Remember that forest app we mentioned before? It's a great example of how gamification can make mindful technology use more fun. By planting a virtual tree that grows as you resist distractions, the app actually taps into our brain's reward system, making focusing more enjoyable and rewarding. Now let's talk about digital detoxes. These intentional breaks from technology can be so refreshing, both for our minds and our bodies. The book shares the example of Liam, a graphic designer who sets aside tech-free nights. By disconnecting from devices in the evening, he creates space for relaxation, quality time with loved ones, and better sleep. Another great example is the Lee family. They've implemented these screen-free Saturdays. Imagine a whole day filled with board games, outdoor adventures, and actual face-to-face conversations. These tech-free periods give families a chance to reconnect, recharge, and rediscover the joy of just being present. Mental health is a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs along the way. But by prioritizing your well-being, implementing these strategies for mindful resilience, and seeking support when you need it, you can navigate the digital world and thrive. As we wrap up this deep dive, remember, you have the power to make a difference, both in your own life and in the lives of others. Prioritize your mental health. Educate yourself and those around you. Advocate for change. Kind to yourself and to each other. Until next time, stay curious, stay mindful, and keep diving deep.